Hi, I'm Jakku, and welcome to Connections, an old school RuneScape story. I'm super excited to be starting this account. For the longest time, I have seen so many creators on YouTube create these super unique and super interesting stories within this game of old school RuneScape. Because of them, I've decided that I want to try something similar and start one of these unique Iron Man accounts. I have been playing this game for many years. When Iron Man came out and I thought that would be a fun way to play the game, I was immediately hooked, and I have been playing the Iron Man game mode ever since, which I might say is a little embarrassing if you see the stats on my current Iron Man. Hey man, that's kind of mean. Oh, hey, yeah, sorry. This isn't about you. For those of you who don't know, a OneChunk account is an account that is restricted to a 150 by 150 tile part of the game world. For example, the starting chunk of Lumbridge encompasses the castle and some of the surrounding shops. This was Limport's original extreme OneChunk account, where he had to get 99 defense and 99 woodcutting because both of the skill capes for those skills are in the chunk. This series takes a lot of inspiration from Limport's original Extreme OneChunk account. My account will be restricted to their chunks, and to move on, I will have to complete every task that is possible to do within that chunk. And you may notice that I'm saying next ones instead of next one, and that's because I'll be playing not one, but two accounts. And not only that, these two accounts will be group Ironmen, meaning that they will be able to share items from opposite sides of Gielinor through a group storage and help each other out with their chunk tasks. For example, let's say one account had the chunk goal of getting 75 woodcutting to be able to chop magic logs, and the other one just happened to have a place where they could buy a rune axe. The first account could send the rune axe to the second account, therefore helping the second one with their chunk goal. Just as a side note, I was gonna have some background footage here of me chopping magic logs, but my Iron Man doesn't have 75 woodcutting. Yeah. Now, I'll say right off the bat, I am not Limport. I am not settled. I am not going to be able to do these 500-hour grinds. So I'm going to be using a rule set that avoids as many of these super long grinds as possible and is able to keep the series moving forward. So I'm not going to be using the extreme OneChunk rule set. I'm going to be using a more vanilla OneChunk rule set, which gets rid of things like skill capes and pets and some of the more extreme training methods that extreme OneChunk accounts have to do. Another thing that's a little bit different about this series is each of these characters is going to start with a little bit more space than the one chunk that most people start with. I've decided to make it 8 chunks each for reasons I'll get into in a little bit. For the characters starting in Varlamore, they will have 8 chunks in the starting city of Civitas Fortis, and for the one in Morytania, the 8 chunks will be divided between the city of Slep and Port Phasmatis, so the character has access to a bank. Also, shout out to SourceChunk for this website. It is an amazing resource for these kinds of accounts. Now, the reason I want to start with 8 chunks for both characters is I have an idea in my head of this series being something that's a little bit more story-driven. I have a baseline narrative that I'm starting off with, and we'll get to that in the official episode 1, which will be coming out in a little bit. And I want their starting locations to make sense within the framework of the story that's going to be told. Ideally, in each episode, there will be a segment of that episode which has to do with kind of the lore and the story of both RuneScape and Gielinor and of this kind of mini narrative within the series that I'm trying to create. Now, obviously, within the framework of a OneChunk series, there is a bit of randomness. The chunk picking aspect is not certain. We're not able to guarantee exactly which direction the characters will be sent in. So it's hard to pre-plan the entire narrative beforehand. So it'll definitely be a case where a lot of the story elements will likely come out of what locations are unlocked and in what order. It's hard to give a clear understanding of exactly what the story will be from this point, which is something I'm very excited about. Now, in an effort to actually move the story along and kind of push the characters towards one another, I have put on a setting in the chunk picker, which you can see here, which allows me to roll 2 different chunks and then pick which one of the 2 I want. This way, I'll be able to kind of push the characters toward one another, and I won't be stuck off in the desert while I'm trying to move westward towards the center of the map. And the issue with picking only one chunk is, as you move in a direction you don't want to move, it will become exponentially more difficult to move in the right direction because there will be more available chunks in the directions you don't want to be going. This is another way that I am going to try and avoid quote-unquote death chunks. Chunks that will take a longer amount of time than other ones might. For example, I'm not doing skill capes, but the famous example of a death chunk within these accounts is the 99 prayer cape, which is right next to Edgeville, which is kind of a pretty central location. I'm super excited about these accounts. I think it's going to be a really fun experience, and I have already started before this video is even being recorded. So they're on their way, and actually, I might put in this video a little bit of a starter introduction to both the characters and their journeys into getting into the starting chunks to begin with, which was a little bit of a, well, you'll see. Hello, hello, hello. And here we are. Connections. Oh boy. Just so everyone knows, I have had to re-record all of the voiceover from Tutorial Island and up to getting into the starting chunks. So all of this I have recorded after the fact, and that is because the mic I was using to record this, it didn't sound great. Let's just, I'll put it that way. Something I didn't mention in the intro is that I have started these characters on Hardcore Iron Men. So we got 2 lives. I'm not necessarily trying to keep the hardcore status alive necessarily. I'm just going to see how long I can keep the hardcore status, and it'll be it'll be a fun moment when we lose the lives. Also, I realized I haven't introduced the names of the characters. So this is Caster, the character whose perspective we are on now. He is going to be the character starting in Varlamore. And on the left, you can see that is Sable, who will be starting in Morytania. In this clip, I'm just creating the group Iron Man, and the name of the group Iron Man is Connections. So if you ever want to look up on the high scores or look up what I'm doing, you can search for the group Connections, and you'll find me there. You will also be able to see how quickly I lose the hardcore status. And there we go. Connections, group Iron Man. Create. And we're good. All right. We're in a group. Oh, this is so exciting. When I was recording the footage for this, I was actually getting a little emotional because I knew that these characters they are not going to see each other for possibly many years. So this is kind of their final farewell before traveling on their own onto opposite sides of Gielinor. So I have some funny shots of me just having the characters wave at one another back and forth. And we're off onto the wide world of Lumbridge, out of the node, and let's get ready to get into our starting locations. And this is it. This is the kind of unceremonious moment when Caster officially starts Children of the Sun on their way to Varlamore and says goodbye to Sable. Goodbye. Goodbye, friend. Here we are starting Children of the Sun, the first quest on this account. Very simple, straightforward quest. Doesn't take very long. Although I did immediately get caught by the guard. Children of the Sun completed. This is where I made a decision that I will very likely live to regret. I decided here that I would complete Druidic Ritual on both Sable and Caster, meaning that I have access to the Herblore skill. So I will be making a lot of potions in the coming couple years. I am very much going to hate myself for this. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how I was going to get Sable into Morytania with the lowest level I possibly could. Taking inspiration from Settled, I decided to use his method and started with pickpocketing some men to get a little bit of money and get my thieving level up to 5 so I could start stealing cakes in Artie. And now here I am in Artie, trying to remember the best way to steal cakes without getting caught and immediately killed by these guards. Now, I don't know where the footage went, but thank goodness for Runelight saving all the images. Here's level 32 thieving, so I can start pickpocketing rogues in the wilderness to get a poison dagger. And the reason I want a poison dagger is because I have no creativity, and I'm going to use it to flinch the dog in Priest in Peril. I really wish I still had the footage for this clip because it's hilarious. But this is me deciding to use the lever to get up to the wilderness and then run past all of the hellhounds and all of the scary monsters that can easily one-shot me in the wilderness. So I've never even fought Chaos Elemental before, so I was so confused why I was getting teleported all around the map, trying to figure out what the hell to do. And of course, I see the projectiles get shot from the other side of this valley, and it hits a 10, and I die. Yeah, so there's one life. I knew this would happen, but I was hoping it wouldn't happen this soon. Anyway, I got right back on the horse, got myself a bit more food from by stealing cakes at Artie. Instead of taking the lever, I hopped on a free-to-play world and ran up the east side of the wilderness, up to the gate, where I made real sure that Chaos Elemental wasn't just walking around and kill me, taking the second life. After about 10 minutes, I finally got the Iron Dagger. Spent a little longer here than I was hoping to, so my thieving level is a little higher than I was planning on before getting into Morytania, but it's inevitable. This was pretty exciting. This is my first time actually using the group storage. Then we got Druidic Ritual done on both accounts, 1 and 2. And then we go right into starting Priest in Peril. And there we go, done killing the Temple Guardian with the Poison Dagger. Then this happened, which is not something I have ever seen before. And there's the Restless Ghost for the Ghost Speak Amulet, and Rune Mysteries for the Rune Essence. And then after mining all the Rune Essence, I had to figure out a way to kill one of these monks of Zamorak so I could get the key to talk to the guy upstairs. Now, in the first episode of Swampletics, where Settle talks about you finding a friend to poison, I don't have any friends who play this game, so I was using an alt, extremely underleveled and doesn't have access to any of the supplies that he used, like the Serpentine Helm and the Blowpipe. So I was trying to use Poison Dynamite, which I thought might work, but I, for some reason, just could not get the Poison Dynamite to poison the monks and do enough damage so that their health won't regen. Because these things, oh my god, these things regen health so fast, as you can see by me struggling in this clip here. Eventually, though, I just said, screw it. I got a poison on one of the monks and then just wind bolted it down, which was really close. The poison did the majority of the damage, and by the time it got to under 5 health, I wasn't 100% sure whether I was going to be able to kill it or not. But then finally, after about 100 casts of Wind Bolt, the monk went down, and I was able to continue on with the quest. I did unfortunately get up to magic level 7. So, yeah, not ideal. I know it can be done at a lower combat level, but I'm pretty happy with this, to be honest. And there's the Rune Essence handed in to Drezel. And with that is the completion of Priest in Peril, and I can go into Morytania. On the way over to the starting chunks, I made sure to take everything out of my bank and drop it on the floor, because all that stuff is not mine. The only things I'm going to let myself start with is the Wolfbane Dagger, because I think that's a fun kind of quest item that you can get, and the Ghost Speak Amulet. Everything else, the Iron Dagger, the Chronicle, say goodbye. And there we are in our starting chunk. Sable is here and ready to go. Oh boy. It's looking a little gloomier than it was in the past little bit. Hello, the Iron Twist. Anyway, yeah, so this is where we begin. Then quickly moving over to Caster, talking to the guy who can send you over to Varlamore for the first time using the Quetzal. And here I am taking my first few strides around the chunk. Just trying to get my bearings, figure out first steps, figure out how to proceed. And yeah, I do have a clip of me getting rid of my bank. Let's see if I can find that. I'm not sure why I decided to drop all my stuff out here, but there it goes. All of the tutorial island tools gone. The only thing Castrol will be keeping is the Group Iron Man helmet, because I think that is a pretty cool symbol of their connection. Their connection. Connection. Connection.
Connections. 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 The end of times is to be brought by festering scars left to rot. Brothers too will mend the wound. Connections must be made. Evil tries to fight their end, but death to those does not intend. With willingness to overcome, connections will be made.
If you've made it this far in the video, thanks so much for watching. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and like and follow for all future updates. This is my first time doing something like this, so if you have any recommendations or comments about editing or voiceover or the accounts itself, feel free to leave a comment. I'll make sure to read it and try to implement any feedback everyone has. Thanks so much. I'll be trying to get the next episode out as soon as possible and keep the ball rolling. Have a good day.